you know, we like to come out hot. How are you feeling?
Am I hot?
Well, I said we like to start hot, come out
So
hot.
I'm not hot.
You're hot.
Well, now I'm feeling not hot.
Just before we were being counted in, you said you wish you had makeup on, but you don't need it. You've got actually a glowing complexion.
Well, thank you. I'm just worrying I'm shiny.
No, you're not. I mean, I don't know. Does he look shiny on camera, guys?
Am I shiny?
See,
Great.
you look great.
Let me know in the comment. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Thank you.
What's the skincare routine? Because you are
Oh,
glowing.
nothing.
Of course.
Thank
like
you.
a
I
bar of
appreciate it.
soap.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah.
Something I stole from a Marriott hotel, I'm sure.
No, not
That is-
hotel soap. That'll dry you out.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone in my Twitch chat once told me what shampoo and conditioner to wear and or to use.
Yeah.
I wear it also, and I use that now.
And it's been great?
I don't know.
Well, what's the brand? Should we try to get
I
a
don't
deal?
even know. It's just like you can't have alcohol in your shampoo.
Oh, because it'll dry out your hair. Yeah.
Frizzy hair. I
No,
don't
it looks
know.
nice. You look
Thank
great. Anyways, thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
you're welcome.
We're in Chicago. We're at the PWT's lounge.
This is a bar that the owner built because at one point
It's a good
t-shirts were doing really well, and he's like, "I'm going to build a bar," and now I think he hates that he has this, and so you
I'm
can use
glad
it.
that it's here because it's been very useful for us while we've been here in Chicago. Nice and close to home for you. Are you so happy to have AEW here in Chicago for the past couple weeks?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's easy for me. Even though the one thing I did was getting murdered by your husband.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. So, but also, I
have no control over this man. Everybody knows that by now. We are separate entities. I'm here as a reporter, journalist, broadcaster. He's here for the murders.
And what a murder that was. Thanks. But I'm sure we'll get into it. I do a lot in AEW.
Yeah.
So I'm at all these shows. People are like, where have you been our whole life? It's like, I'm here at every show. I'm wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And so to go 20 minutes down the block for like 6 straight shows is amazing for me.
What are some of your favorite memories as a kid growing up here?
In general?
Getting in,
camp was nice.
As a wrestling fan with young Colt, stars in your eyes, realizing that this was a career that you wanted to pursue.
The first shows I ever went to were the Rosemont Horizon, which is now the Allstate Arena. Just seeing those people, just as a kid, and my dad taking me to the shows. I do remember, man, the UIC Pavilion was a little too far downtown for a suburbs kid like myself, but we could go to the Rosemont Horizon. And I did get in trouble once because it was just me and all these other grown men, right?
Yeah.
And everyone was giving Mr. Fuji some slack, and I remember I was just like, oh, they're all yelling at him, and my dad, and so I would test it. I'd be like, "You suck, Fuji," and then he wouldn't care. And then I once said "Fuck you, Fuji," and my dad then dragged me out of it. Yeah. So those memories of going to those 80s WWF shows at the Rosemont Horizon for sure.
Have Chicago wrestling fans always been like this?
Always.
What's that about?
And especially
What's up with you guys?
Attitude Era, you really saw it. And then when I became a smarter wrestling fan, and I would try to I don't know how you were, but in my high school, nobody liked wrestling. I was the only one.
I mean, we used to do tombstones on our front lawn and yeah.
Not me.
Yeah, we did.
Not me. We didn't even have front lawns. That's how. Okay. So
Don't try this at home.
Yes.
So we say.
I would go to the Rosemont and try to make wrestling friends. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you just wild, always passionate. There's something blue collar about Chicago just in general, and then our wrestling and such a rich history too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at the Aragon now for these shows, and it's you go back and you look at the records of 40s, 50s, 60s, and Aragon's in there. And then we took a break, I guess, wrestling in general for music to be there.
Yeah.
And I love that.
We brought it back.
I love that it's back.
Venue.
Yeah, very cool.
And like you said, a lot of history, even non-wrestling history. I guess it was an Al Capone spot.
You're me and Al,
well, I just thought maybe you knew some of the weird
every
stories.
spot in Chicago is an Al Capone spot.
Okay.
He ate at every place. If they're trying to get you in that door, Al Capone was there.
Okay, so you're a kid, you're growing up here, you're attending shows, you're trying to find your wrestling friends. But when did the switch happen of going, I don't want to just observe, I want to do?
Oh, I was reading dirt sheets as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It was wild, and especially when you go from just reading PWI magazines at the Borders to finding the inside information about wrestling. It's a crazy switch. And that was the big switch for me because I never thought that I wanted to be a wrestler my whole life. I never thought I could be a giant television wrestler.
Why?
Schlubby Jewish kid from the suburbs of Chicago. I just knew I wouldn't look like the dudes on TV. I just knew I wouldn't look like that. I don't know, maybe at one point I was always just kind of like in the middle somewhere, right? In the mix of it. So, and especially in high school. And so when all of a sudden you see like USWA results and you see Memphis Pro results and you see like APW out of California and you see that they're doing it in front of 100 people, and then you see like Reckless Youth, everyone, on the internet or even the magazines, Reckless Youth is this god of wrestling, and you go and you watch videos of him wrestling in front of 100 people, and I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, probably 13 or 14, I said to myself and to my parents, this is my game plan, this is my path, I want to be a wrestler. My parents said, you have to go to college. This is pretty well documented. My parents said, you have to go to college. I said, all right. So I went and I played a year of football at Western Michigan University. And then after that 1 year, I quit football. I stayed in college. I said, I have to wrestle.
Yeah.
So that summer in between freshman and sophomore year, I found a wrestling school in Chicago. Kind of weirdly, now where I live, the wrestling school no longer exists. And off to the races.
It's so funny, like when you do make that switch, or you've like really locked in on like, I'm doing this regardless of what like you cannot let it go. And that's like the passion that I think like anyone that's been successful, especially in this industry, has to have that.
It's come in different waves.
Yeah.
The obsession.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about the different waves then, because you've had different iterations, obviously, of your career, different promotions, different jobs within the industry. What are the waves like?
So the obsession, you want to get in the wrestling, you'll do anything to get in wrestling. And then you start wrestling training, and it's like, I want to be at that wrestling school as much as humanly possible. And then you see at the wrestling school, you see other people not with that obsession. You're like, why aren't we all?
Yeah.
And I thought everyone was going to be as obsessed.
Yeah.
So you find out quickly that you're a little bit different than everybody. And then that comes true when all of a sudden you're the only one, or there's a couple of you that are now driving 6 hours to a show for pennies, or driving 12 hours to a show, or driving to a show and then driving back and getting home at 8 a.m. with no sleep. And you just see that if your obsession is a little more than others, and then
you have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of different obsessions than, getting signed by a major company, getting overseas trips, and then like my podcast years from like 2010 to 2020, that was a whole different obsession.
Right.
And especially in your 30s, want to make a living at wrestling and don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
So then your obsession becomes a little bit of money, a little bit of notoriety, a little bit of staying relevant. So many different obsessions.
Thank God for the obsession.
Well, I don't know, maybe not.
I feel lucky to have found something that I was obsessed with. To find something that like you need it to live, to breathe, to exist. To imagine that to go away it's a hard.
As we get older, we then realize,
changes.
Make sure not to miss the family stuff. Make sure not to miss this.
Yes.
Like, how healthy is that obsession?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Sorry.
But again, no, it does come in those waves though, because I mean, luckily for me, and we won't get into too much with you because you are a private man, but you have done enough within the industry that you can sort of go, okay, I can do both of these things, and I don't have to be so doing these 6-hour road trips and having, you can do both. You can manage both.
And I've never had a major television, you know what I'm saying? So to become, I'm 45 now, to get to 40, even before I signed with AEW, and it's so nice that I was at 40 and I was like, I'm really proud of the work that I've done. I've made enough now to save in my bank account. The pressure and the stress really isn't that brutal for me, if at all.
Yeah.
So I love that. Anything kind of coming after that is just kind of like having fun in wrestling, being a part of it,
sort of
enjoying
let you foot off the gas pedal a little bit.
For sure.
Because you had posted not too long ago about how for the past 20 years you've been obsessed with being in the pro wrestling world and making this your life without being like a cog in that machine. What is your advice to people to be able to make that happen? There's obviously different options and different opportunities now, but how do you make that work?
Well, there's so much advice. I don't know. I think it's do what you think is cool about what you think is cool.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I always say, like, I wanted to be the wrestler that I would want to watch. And I always went by that. And maybe it didn't get me like the craziest success, but I love comedy. I love being a comedy wrestler. I love when I'm in the ring that I can make people laugh. And, you know, if that doesn't make me the world champion, because there was spots of like, okay, I should be somebody else. And when I would try to be somebody else, I really didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think if you truly do what you want to do and stay and kind of do your thing, that's kind of happiness. And success can be valued very differently by different people. And my career is so successful.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of, like, because that's what I love about pro wrestling too. I love comedy matches. I love that's what lured me in. I mean, when I think of Roddy Piper and Goldust doing the Hollywood Backlot Brawl, not that that's like necessarily a comedy bit, but
the
like
most violent match ever. Jesus.
But it was Goldust, Dustin Rhodes. It was the guy that brought me in, and you see the stuff that he was doing, kind of like leading into that on the other side of that. But like that was a big part of what sucked me into this sport. Who are some of your favorites when you were kind of growing up? It's a little tricky to talk about these because
I have different versions. I love comedy growing up because a lot of us, I think it was like a lot of comedy fans found wrestling by trying to watch Saturday Night Live and then Saturday Night's Main Event.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of found comedy assuming Saturday Night's Main Event would come on, and then there was Saturday Night Live, and I'd watch that.
That's how you got into comedy?
I mean, that's how, like, I feel, I don't know exactly, but I know that specific thing happened
correlation
to me.
there,
Like, I loved Saturday Night Live because I watched it, because I was trying to watch Saturday Night's Main Event.
Yeah.
But in terms of wrestling, like, I was just basic wrestler 101 until I found myself as a wrestler, and then became so comfortable with me as a wrestler, I wanted to explore like different avenues of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, is that I tell that to kind of students all the time, is like, you have to know you have to be great at the basics in order to be different, but you have to be different.
Yeah.
But you can't just be different if you don't know the basics.
Sure.
So it takes a long time. And I think comedy wrestling too,
very nuanced.
Yeah, you have to, there's just so many levels to it that people just think, oh, I just go out there and make a fart joke. Like,
No.
it's just not how it is.
No.
So growing up, I mean, I loved Dusty. I loved like Boogie Woogie Man, Junkyard Dog. I loved Vader. I just loved all of these guys. But once I got into wrestling, especially when I lived in England for 3 months and I started watching World of Sport, I kind of became enamored with a wrestler named Les Kellett and Cat Weasel and Vic Faulkner and a lot of these World of Sport, kind of 1960s, 70s, and 80s British wrestlers.
Okay.
Which I know it's kind of like niche and a lot of people don't know, but I couldn't recommend enough to go look them up.
The heart likes what the heart likes,
there
right?
you go, yeah.
Let's talk about some of the comedy stuff, because I wonder if it's similar. With me growing up in Toronto, and Second City is such a big staple in Toronto. Obviously, it is here in Chicago as well. And I think there's such big comedy. Comedy is thriving in both of those cities. I felt very drawn to that when I first started getting into any kind of performance. Second City was the first place that I went to, and it felt real and tangible to be able to do something like that. Did you feel like that being in a city like this, that you could actually do it?
We are the Second City.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Growing up, you hear Farley stories, and then everyone's got a story because they knew Farley, or someone knew someone who knew Farley. So yeah, I would go downtown and I would check out Second City shows, or Improv Olympics it was called. And it does feel tangible or reachable or part of who you are. And Chicagoans take a lot of pride of like, this is our culture, this is who we are, this is the pizza we like, this is the hot dogs we like, this is kind of our gruff of who we are.
Yeah.
And so we all do kind of feel akin, especially like if I traveled anywhere over the years, you see someone wear a Cubs jersey. Yeah, of course. And so, and comedy is a part of that. And also being Jewish, comedy is a part of us and who we are. And so like that, it just adds another layer of.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I definitely always felt that way being in Toronto, being like, oh, I can at least get there, and to walk down those hallways and see those headshots up there, you're like, oh, that's something I could maybe do. So you still get to scratch that comedy itch while doing everything that you're doing at AEW. You're still out doing some shows and whatnot here. what is the difference between the joy that you get from being in the ring versus being on a stage? Are they different?
Yeah, your body doesn't hurt as much. It's nice. Yeah, I like performing. I really do. And if I found anything in this journey of my wrestling, I like to perform. And so, like, as my wrestling career will eventually and probably has kind of started to wind down, I get a lot of knowing that I can go on a stage at the Lincoln Lodge in Chicago and do a set or do a comedy show. I get a lot of joy of knowing, even at the very end of it, at the very least, I can jump on Twitch and perform in some kind of way. Or I could, I can go on podcasts, I could do podcasts. So I do love the performing aspect of it. Nothing is like wrestling. I mean, you've heard that a million times. It's so magical and just all different aspects formed into one, but it has taught me that performance is something I really enjoy.
Something that really helped me when I was getting into the wrestling world, and I was sort of catapulted into it in sort of a roundabout way and trying to play catch up on a lot of history. And
I know exactly what you're going to say, but go on.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I spent a lot of time when I first moved to New York trying to figure out, how do I exist in this industry? You, in my ears, saved my life. Listening to The Art of Wrestling and understanding some of these people, getting those interviews for you to really be like that first podcast guy in this space. How much did that change things for you? Is that what you think I was going to say?
Yeah, you told me that. Do you remember telling me that?
Nope, I don't. But
you were maybe 6 months or a year into wrestling, if not that much. And we were in the same space together, and you said, "Hey, I listen to driving from Canada to America." I think you said listening to so much of your podcast, and that's exactly what it was for. Like, I guess there was so many reasons for it, because it lasted 10 years. I did it every single week, and it shows my work rate. Of like. To put something out every single week and to be obsessed about making sure I had a guest and make sure I was doing it for 10 straight years.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
It's crazy. But like, a thing for me listening to that, it really helped me understand more of like the passion that goes into all of this. I mean, hearing those interviews, hearing your POV, hearing the guest POV on stuff like that, I think really helped set me up for success of like how that shit works. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad to do it. And my journey was so wild, and I was, eventually I put out a documentary. I put out 3 documentaries, the Wrestling Road Diaries, about it. But I just knew it was so. I was doing it every week, and I knew it was so unlike anyone was doing. Or there's a handful of us at the time, and actually there's so many, because you see the list of hundreds of wrestlers that I talked to about their journey. Everyone knew that the TV wrestlers. And even as an independent wrestler, I'm just like, they're getting their hotels paid for, they're putting money in their bank accounts. I'm sleeping on Frank's floor, and I love every second of it. And I know I'm in the wrestling business. And I knew at that time there was people who were big television wrestling stars who would look down and say, you're not in the wrestling business, so I'm in the wrestling business. But I knew I was in the wrestling business. And I wanted other people who had the same journey to be like, yes, I am in the wrestling business, or I want to get in the wrestling business, or just like I read when I was a kid, 100 people, at the National Fairgrounds, like, you can get in the wrestling business. Wrestling in front of, 150 people in Cleveland, Ohio on a Friday, and then 200 people, in Grays Lake, Illinois. That's part of the wrestling business.
So talk to me about Wrestling Anonymous, because I saw your post you put out where somebody was speaking about how somebody's going through a tough time, called into the show, and you were telling them about an Okada Kenny Omega match that was coming up, and this saved this person's life. That's crazy.
Well, again, you do what you like to listen to. And so in 2009, I really enjoyed listening to comedians speak to each other about the inside of the business. And I wanted to do that for the wrestling industry. And then, your taste kind of moves forward. And I was kind of really, I like kind of like hotline call-in shows, or kind of some NPR type feel. So I wanted to make a new show of just people calling in their wrestling experiences, because we all have wrestling, and I just love weird stories about that have to do with wrestling. And so one caller did call in and told this story about he saved a kid's life who was about to take his own life. and he was wearing I think it was a New Japan T-shirt.
Yeah.
And the security guard was like, "Hey," they start talking about Okada, Kenny, and then he kind of stepped off the ledge. Who knows if it's true? I would like to think it's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird thing to make up, so hopefully
Right.
it is true.
Yeah.
Hopefully that is
Yeah.
true. But yeah, I mean, to have wrestling like literally saving lives, I'm sure that there's other variations and iterations of stories like that. But
And then on the
really
same
cool.
on the same page, like part of that Wrestling Anonymous show, I called him Wrestling Grandpa. He would call up every week. He was like 70, late 70s. And the best thing is I don't know their names. I don't know anything. But
Yeah.
he later told me, he was like, because I was like, how old are you? He's like, I'm in my late 70s. And he would just tell these stories of being in the wrestling business. And you could tell it's just, he just enjoyed getting this off his chest. Yeah. So
you like get with like-minded people to
Yeah.
talk about this subject, and you're off to the races about it. Okay, so you're in comedy, you're in wrestling. Your brother is a director of Family Guy.
Yeah.
You got to make your debut on Family Guy with Excalibur mask. Talk to me about how this all kind of came together, because I know it must have been a lot of different moving parts to pull that off.
No, my brother, who's my brother, is the director. He's one of the main guys.
Yeah.
He's been with Family Guy for maybe 20 years now.
Wow.
And he's just first of all, it's so weird that I was obsessed with wrestling as a kid. My brother was obsessed with drawing as a kid. And we were just like, oh, let's go do what we want to do.
Crazy.
And he's very successful at what he does. I'd like to think I'm successful at what I do. And yeah, they were doing a wrestling episode. I think he tried to get me to voice it, but they were like, nah. But he did ask he said, I want to get Matt Classic in there. And he's like, any other masks? And I said, oh, and then I pushed Excalibur, Evil Uno, Serpentico.
Yeah.
And I think Excalibur was the easiest one to do.
Yeah.
And
Really cool.
and afterwards, it's so wild. I was having so much fun I really don't post on Twitter or X, but the people.
Everywhere.
So I was like, I'm just going to keep on saying what a collaboration, what a success. But it was just my brother, you know? And people were like, "Darren, AEW would never."
Nailed it.
Y'all
Pulled it off.
are crazy out there.
Awesome. Well, dude, you've had a great career. You've helped me to have a great career. So thank you for that. And, stepping into the producer role here at AEW, how has that sort of changed your mindset?
There is a performance. I don't want to get too much into like what a producer does.
There's another way to speak about it than like that, but it is a very important job to be able to do that and to do it well, because it's a different hat to wear.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do like it. The performer in me will always want to perform.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of heartbreakness going on.
Sure.
But as a producer, I'm in the trenches, and I like being in the trenches. And I also, I feel I know wrestling. I was and am so immersed in it for so many years now. I like that knowledge can be used. I like to use that knowledge, and I really like when some people like different things about producing. I really like when I'm talking to the truck.
Yeah.
And I'm like it's like I'm almost in the middle of the match, and you hear it takes like three people, the wrestlers and the referee, but I feel like the fourth person. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Certainly. Well, we love seeing you do it. Love seeing you have all of this success, and thanks for having us in Chicago.
Yeah, you're welcome.